Good evening and welcome to the Monday night edition of The People Show right here on IntellectualRadio.com, on YouTube, and streaming at Facebook Live at The People Show. Our telephone number is 708-223-8953. You are here with Mark Wallace and Charles Thomas.
Yes, that's me, and we're a little late getting started this evening, but we're here.
Yeah, traffic. I miscalculated.
Well, you miscalculated, but we all miscalculate. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting as opposed to classical broadcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, so we're 5-10 minutes late. We're still here.
We're still here.
And we're going to have a good show tonight, I'm sure. Good conversation.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. I mean, we certainly have to do one thing together. We certainly do what we do here, but there's somebody behind the scenes that put all this stuff together. So we want to just say a great congratulations and a happy birthday to the super producer, Brother Earl Winfrey.
Man, happy birthday, Earl. What is this, man? Like 40 what? 30 what? 4. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's all grown-ups here, man.
Yeah, all grown-ups here. But, we really appreciate Earl. He's the behind-the-scenes guy, but make it all happen.
But he's been making it happen not only here, but so many people over the years in the community have had a way to express themselves here at Intellectual Radio.
Unfiltered.
And he's a rock. I mean, and he lets all points of view come to the fore, where I know there are other media outlets in our area with whom you and I have had experience that don't always allow for total free expression. At least
unfortunately.
But this is a place where people have come to express themselves. I know that I came here probably 8-9 years ago for the first time, and I was impressed by the conversation, because it was a conversation that we certainly did not have in mainstream media where I worked at the time. But you could come here and loosen your tie and take your shoes off and just talk.
That's it.
Just talk.
As long as they don't stink. But some other stuff stink, but okay. But no, that I think that's very true, that to be able to have open dialogue and people are able to share the different points of views without being nasty.
And the thing is that mainstream media today has become so biased. Everything is biased. Everybody has a narrative.
Well, I think, to a fairness, everybody has a certain bias.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah. But I think that if you look at your Fox, your MSNBC, your CNN, your 597, what is it, 232 here in Chicago, I mean, you really look, you have to know what you're looking at. You can't assume that any one media source is going to give you the truth. And you have to look for it. And I think podcasting is a way to get more information so that you individually can make a reasoned, you can decipher the truth for yourself, I'm sure, but you get more than just the mainstream media opinion.
I think what more than anything else, you're not restricted as some of those other, you as a journalist, when I now think about your job as a journalist, that's, got to be very tough in those days to just report and not to be able to talk about your own thoughts about certain things, but that's what the job is.
But I got pretty good at it. I mean, I'll say it. I mean, I thought I was pretty good at it, and I really didn't find that out until
Well, you had to be. You wouldn't have been there that long.
Well, but I was good at it in as much as everybody thought that I was their advocate because I was. I mean, I advocated, I would tell people, I would interview people on what others would consider the fringe, but I always was able to find another view, the view that was opposite the one that I happened to feature that day. Whereas a lot of reporters don't do that now. They just go with one side and they don't really seek out the other point of view. And now that I'm doing political consulting and I'm generally doing one side of the issue, I'm finding out that reporters don't seek out diametrically opposed views. Maybe they don't know where they are. But I think I'm a pretty reasoned guy, but I don't hear a lot of points of view. People don't seek me out. Not that I mean, they do sometimes, but they don't seek out points of view that don't agree with the mainstream. It's like everybody's selling something and you're trying to keep everything in line. I, Maybe I'm not expressing myself clearly enough, but I just don't think people are doing both sides of the story, even when both sides of the story are available. They just don't look for it.
Well, to some degree, I think it has certainly changed over the years. I think it has really changed because the people that I would consider to be, as a child growing up, the people that I watched in broadcasting were like Peter Jennings and Ted Koppel. Those were people that I remember. Tom Brokaw. Those guys were hard at bringing you both sides, and you made
Absolutely.
your decision. Now, they were as equally as they were at bringing both sides, they were equally challenging you for the truth. Those both sides, they were, they were bringing the questions to both sides of that. And I'm not sure if it is a combination of either reporters not necessarily looking for it, or if it is for some people saying, I'm not going over there because they're not going to be as friendly as I think. Now, that was like a couple of people who were running for public office were saying that I invited to come here. And they asked us for prearranged questioning. And I said, we don't do that with kind of interviews. If you're running for an office, in our judgment, we agree to this. If you're running for a public office, statewide, citywide, whatever, you should have a pretty command of the information to give to the public, and certainly to respond to questions that we would ask relative to that particular office that you're running. That why would we have to give you a script so you can prepare for it? Because even if we did, we would ask you different questions.
Well, I think a lot of them really expect that now because that's the way a lot of media operates. I mean, for instance, you will not see a conservative the spokesperson, so to speak, on MSNBC, nor will you see a liberal spokesperson on Fox News. I mean, I'm just making that. I know I'm oversimplifying, and I know there are exceptions, but generally, Fox News has its roster of people, and they generally are from the right. MSNBC has its roster of people, and they generally are on the left. And there the twain shall meet. Then the other problem I see in the media is that we have editors. I hesitate to call them editors, who won't entertain a certain point of view because they will use a label for that point of view, call it racist or sexist or whatever, or socialist or radical communist, they'll put labels on people, and therefore they say, well, your opinion is not valid because you are a racist, or you are a homophobe, or you are a transphobe, and so we're not going to talk to you because you because they labeled you, and once you get that label, they don't want to talk to you anymore. um, they can call you a sellout, and they won't talk to you anymore because you sold out. I had somebody say that to me. They said that you sold out, so we're not interested in what you have to say. I sold out. What sold out for what? Sold out who? But that's what they do. They give you a label, and at that point, they don't have to pay attention to what you have to say. I never took a label. I would go interview a Klansman. Now I would go interview somebody to counter that Klansman, and put that point of view on the air and let the viewer make their decision about what happened. I'm not going to, the Klansman is absolutely a racist. I get that. But I'm not going to deny him in this system the right to speak. Now, he can't cuss. He can't call people, the N word and all that. But you tell me what you have to think. And I said ground rules, absolutely. But I never labeled people. And the label, and to label a person, to deny them a right to the forum, no, I can't do that.
But isn't that what the job of the professional journalist is?
Absolutely.
The journalist is somewhat like the referee.
The moderator, yes.
Right? You're getting the story. You're not making the story, but you're making the story because you're bringing in the story, right? But
one of the greatest, just I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I don't know if you've ever seen Mike Wallace interviewing Malcolm X. Mike Wallace is, he's
Yes.
dead now, but
Yes.
you saw that.
Yes.
I mean, that was the kind of interview
Malcolm
that
X,
worked. And Mike Wallace
Louis
was no Malcolm
Farrakhan.
X fan.
Louis
Right.
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan, yeah, but Farrakhan is okay.
Some of the most controversial
classic example.
Other people,
Classic example, Mark. Farrakhan.
Muammar Gaddafi.
They don't allow Farrakhan on Facebook or Twitter or all this stuff or whatever. They banned him from time to time. What? How you going to ban Louis Farrakhan? Let him speak. Let him. Why? Because they know that there are people listening and they're trying to preempt him. That's the problem I have with today's media. I never had that problem coming up in the game when I was in it. I always did what I couldn't work today. Because I'd get fired. Because I'd go interview Farrakhan. Bring him back and say, okay, I interviewed Farrakhan. Oh, well, we don't put Farrakhan on the air. He's a racist. What? He's anti-Semitic.
Even if that were the case, because we've had people who are bigots, racists, whatever, that journalists have interviewed, murderers, the Iceman, Kuklinski. They did a documentary on. That's who he was, but they basically told the story or allowed the story to develop. I had an issue with, and I still have this issue with some of the stations about there was something happening with respect to the red light cameras and the speed cameras. And I thought that it was critical. Even they thought it was critical, but they would not air the story before the election. And I thought that it was a terrible disservice to the public because both candidates should have, that question should have been brought to them, which would have been the final debate or whatever they wanted to call it. That question should have been brought to them, and they would not allow for it to happen because they were saying, well, we don't want to influence the election.
It's corrupt.
Because I said, first of all, there is no way that the media cannot not influence election. It's going to have some impact because you're putting information out for the public.
That's
so that's
the
your
point.
job.
That's your job.
That's your job, is to put the information out there, and it's influenced whatever way the public, but you're just putting the truth out there. So some of that, I think, in today's news media, 40 years ago, that would not have happened.
Would not have happened. Because you look at the thing with Joe Biden's son and his laptop, and the New York Post, one of the oldest newspapers in the country, breaks a story about this laptop being left around, and it's got mention of one of the presidential candidates as well as his son. And then you had misinformation with the CIA and other individuals saying that it's not real, it's Russian disinformation, a lie. The media ran with it. They ran with the lie, but then they didn't clean it up. My God, I can understand a mistake. Okay, maybe there's some conspiracy on the part of the CIA and all these people. Okay, but you've got to clean it up to maintain your credibility. So all those people who said that it was misinformation, they lied. And they know they lied. Now they know they lied, but do you see them saying, hey, we screwed up? No, they don't do that. And I'm not saying that would have made a difference in the election. I'm not saying that. But if
you put misinformation out, you have a responsibility to correct it.
That's gone.
Period.
That responsibility, it seems at this point, is gone. The news media does not feel that responsibility. They feel they have a dog in the fight one way or the other. I mean, Fox has Trump in the fight, right? Clearly.
I've seen,
and MSNBC clearly has Joe Biden in the fight, and they are backing their candidate. And that's not, I wouldn't want to get involved in that as a journalist and sit there and lie that and pretend that this guy is better than that guy when I'm not using facts. I'm just saying that it because that's what the narrative is.
Well, I've seen them both correct themselves. I've seen MSNBC and I've seen Fox correct themselves. Now they were forced to.
Fox got sued.
They got sued and they were forced to. And they didn't, they made a half-baked attempt at doing it. But the point is that journalists need to be journalists. Bring the two sides together. Let the truth be determined by the public.
And the public, I think, can do a very good job of that. But we have to have news sources, news media sources. Now, I don't mean reporter sources, but information centers that are fair, that are even-handed. MSNBC is not even-handed. It's not. Fox is not even-handed. They are not. They have an agenda, and they play it all the way. And the one saving grace we do have here is that we've got now this system of podcasters and decentralized media, people on their laptop in their kitchen who are saying things as well and reporting. Now, a lot of them have agendas too, but at least you get every side of the story. You don't get this make-believe that you have in mainstream media. I mean, the Chicago Tribune. Oh, disgusting. I'm sorry. I'm a journalist, right? Classically trained. I read that paper and I'm saying this is disgusting. This is just disgusting. The Sun-Times, they're more professional. But the Tribune, they just pander. They pander.
Well, the Sun-Times has its fair share of.
But I know who they
well,
are,
right?
and they make no
have
bones
their
about
share.
it. But
Sure.
the other paper tries to act like they're bringing you the truth. The Sun-Times is run by the labor unions.
Well, they both. They both say that they're bringing you the truth. But you,
sometimes I
you
can
as
believe,
the
but I
reader,
can't believe that.
But with this, on the other hand, you as the reader, As the public, you have to do research. You can't just take the first thing that you hear, or because somebody made up this fancy video that's happens to be the truth, or just because it's on the internet doesn't make it the truth.
A classic example with the Tribune. Okay, the Tribune no longer runs mug shots because they say it was racist. They say it was racist. Wait a minute. Who are you to determine what's racist? That's not your job. Your job is to report the facts. And if they arrested this person, and this person happens to be a black person, hey, that's who you arrested. That's who got arrested. And if that's the police, that's who the police gave you, you don't have the right to sit there and determine what's racist. That's not your job. That's subjective. That's just, you can't. Not that. A picture? If that's who they arrested, you're not going to put that on because you say it's racist, or you think it's that people are going to, and you act like you're holier than thou, and that's why you should read my paper because I don't print mug shots because there's too many black people getting arrested.
What? Well, there was a time where then in news media, period, whenever it was alleged that there was a black person, they were quick to give a physical description. And when there was a non-black person, they were not quick to give a physical description. So there was some biasness in that.
Things weren't right in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, whatever.
I'm not talking about the 40s and 50s.
No. I'm saying that you can do that. You don't have to be, as you, what the dynamic you just described was in fact racist. If in fact they only are describing the black people and not describing the white people,
they were done that large.
Okay.
That was.
But I mean, all you got to do to fix that situation, that wasn't, describe the white people. Yeah. Describe the white people who did.
They just decided that's all you have to do. Anybody.
But we can't live in 1945 when it's 2025.
Well, that's what the media did.
That's what they did.
Not to describe
and that
anybody.
DID word is important, but we cannot be hamstrung, and journalism cannot be captured by what happened in our past. We have to think about the future and the integrity of our profession, and we can't make subjective decisions.
Well, unfortunately, if it was our past, but
it was our past, because right now it's not our present.
Well,
because they won't. Why is it our present?
They don't do that.
Because they don't do that.
They don't do that.
They don't do that. I'm saying that's progress, and we need to celebrate the progress instead of trying to define everything by what happened 50 years ago. You can't do it. You can't grow as a profession if you start doing that. If I start making decisions based on 1950s sins, it's not going to work professionally. I don't think. That's just an opinion. That's my opinion as a professional journalist, or used to be.
Well, I think you do have to look at some of your practices that you had in the past, so that you don't have that are bad practices, that you have better practices.
Yeah.
Currently
absolutely.
And for the future.
Moving forward.
You do have to look at that. So, but it gets very tricky.
That's like that's like making editorial, paying editorial reparations, which again, I don't think that's our business either. We need to be factual. We need to do it right. We knew how to do it.
Editorial reparations?
That's what it would be if you sit there and you make decisions based on things you did in the past that were wrong. So I'm going to go compensate. So I'm not going to show you who got the picture of who got arrested, even though his name was Aloysius Johnson, and everybody knows the name sounds black or whatever, but it could be Bernie Feinstein.
Johnson sounds black.
I don't know. I'm just making that up, man. But I mean, Johnson, whatever. I mean, I'm saying it's ridiculous. I think it's a subjective decision based on faults in the past. Anyway, man, what about this? I know the president just went to Hawaii to
Yeah.
look at the damage. Man, they say that they're paying these people, or they've offered them $700. Did you read that?
No, I didn't read that.
Oh man, no, it was a
$700.
Well, that would what it would work out to at this point, $700. But
that might be
what
something in the immediate, because
exactly
when
But
we
what-
had the hurricanes,
Mhm.
Hurricane Andrew, they were giving out stipends so that people can
People
buy
can go
supplies,
food and whatever.
Yeah.
But what I found even more interesting is that so many of these extraordinarily wealthy people who have owned property on Maui, that their estates did not get burned, that somehow the fire went around Oprah's mansion or Will Smith's mansion
and to Lahainey or
Bill
whatever.
Gates's mansion around Lahainey, because apparently they own a lot of land there. But-
Around there.
Huh?
You mean around that area?
On that island on Maui.
Mhm.
There are quite a few
But
extraordinarily
this
wealthy
is
people.
contained to this one area called Lahainey.
Well, Lahainey is the capital city.
Okay, well,
in-
that's
on
where.
Well, it's sort
yeah.
of like the what would you call it on Maui? It's like the county seat. I mean, Lahainey is the biggest community, city, whatever it is, on Maui.
Mhm.
Okay. But what I found interesting is that so many of the very wealthy people there, their homes did not get destroyed by the fire. And it's raising all kinds of questions about the fire.
Well,
How it started
We're,
and-
we're starting to get more and more information as to how the fire started. We still haven't quite gotten that information, but there was the report over the weekend that I had not seen, that the fire was extinguished. The original fire was extinguished.
Mhm.
Or certainly they said it was extinguished, but then it rekindled, and because there was some high winds, which I find that is a problem, or that speaks of some problem with the fire department not following all the procedures to making sure that it was extinguished, because wherever it started, they hit it immediately, and it said it was extinguished, and then like they went back home, and in the dead of the night it just started over again.
But these very wealthy estates on Maui apparently had their own. I mean, you can spend $15-20 million on an estate, if you got it like that. They have their own fire suppression systems on their land. And I mean, you don't build a $20 million house without fire suppression system. I mean, why not? Why not? But they were able to secure like Bill Gates's house and Oprah's house and Will Smith's house and some of the others owned by very high profile people that are very, very, very expensive estates were saved. So what you have on Maui now are these the working class people, middle class people burned out, completely gone.
Yeah.
But you still have these enclaves and these compounds that are still there. And when they talk about rebuilding, man, I mean, you're going to have a situation where very wealthy people are going to still be there. They own a lot of land. Like Oprah owns 2,000 acres on Maui. And if you want to live in the United States and you want to have an exclusive community where people like me cannot go unless I have a pass, man, can you imagine being on the island of Maui and it being an island of wealth, super wealth, and luxury? as it's rebuilt. There's talk about making it a completely an island that's driven by artificial intelligence. Have you read anything like about those
No,
things?
but I've heard some disgusting
Yeah.
stories about people contacting family members when about selling their land,
Mm-hmm.
when all of their
Mm-hmm.
what they knew of
Mm-hmm.
their lives
Mm-hmm.
have been just torched, and still there are 850 missing people. I mean, I just
Oh no,
it's just
it's a deep story, man.
unconscionable,
I know when
man.
you brought it
It's
up last
unconscionable.
week. I mean, it was just at that point it was a disaster in progress. But now, when we're starting to hear these stories about the aftermath of it and what the potential could be moving forward, and what Maui could become, and who lives in Maui, who owns property on Maui now, and are they
Well,
going?
what Lahaini could become an extension of
Ooh,
Maui.
but it could, man,
I know
Maui
this
could
is
be an
not.
interesting place,
Well,
man.
yeah, I get what you're saying, but just to kind of put it in context so that the listeners and the viewers can can somewhat grasp, it is the same thing that I see happening with the University of Chicago and Hyde Park
Oh, you got to help me with that
and
one.
and the Obama mausoleum, that they have taken this parkland and it is essentially, in my opinion, extending Hyde Park and the footprint of the University of Chicago uh, on this parkland, and essentially building a wall to extend their footprint for Hyde Park um, and the south side of Chicago. So let's just picture Lahaini, and I'm just going based off what you're saying. You're hearing there is what has happened with Maui. Maybe there's going to be some attempt to take these people's property and extend the footprint of Maui.
That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's phone calls have been
About
made to
hmm?
people. People have been reporting. There's been stories of people reporting that they have been getting phone calls from realtors wanting to buy their property.
Well, the thing is, the people who are normal people, working folks, man, to rebuild in Maui, it's going to take more money than they have. It's going to take a lot of federal money to come in individually to build a house, a 3-bedroom ranch house that will probably cost you over $1 million in a place like Maui to rebuild it. So if you look at Maui and you say, well, we're just going to start over again.
What's do you know what the population of Lahaini, the area that got
The island is
destroyed?
Maui. In Lahaini is a town.
But all of Maui didn't get destroyed. Lahaini got
Well,
destroyed.
Lahaini got destroyed, but a lot of Maui got destroyed. A lot of Maui, the island, got destroyed where people lived. I mean, they didn't have fire suppression systems around their property, which I'm sure Oprah had, and I'm sure Bill Gates has, because they got it like that. They can do that. They're not gonna. I mean, a fire is gonna have a tough time getting past the water and chemicals that they've got stored to fight a fire that would come to their property. I can't imagine an insurance company insuring Oprah's house without it having a fire suppression system on the outside. Anyway, but I mean, I think that we need to watch that real closely because
I am watching it closer now
yeah.
because some of the things that I've been hearing over the weekend were just very disturbing to me.
Mhm.
It was very disturbing to me that, look, I'm in the real estate business. I understand opportunity. I understand that. And in some cases, there are people who take the insurance check and say, you know what, I'm going to take this and I'll fire sale my property,
Mhm.
no pun intended, and move on. Hurricane Andrew hit Miami or South Florida. There were a number of people who decided, I'm not going to rebuild. I'll take my insurance money and I will go. I have a friend who purchased a couple of homes where people just They're like, I'm taking my insurance money and we're out of here. And they fire sold their property.
But can you imagine an island?
This is a little different.
Can you imagine an island where only the super wealthy lived? Oprah and her neighbors, Bill Gates, and some movie stars and some big time business.
Yeah,
people.
we have some of those.
Well,
We have some of those.
where is it? Where is that?
Oprah happens to be one of the residents down in Miami.
Okay, but I
Miami.
mean, but this time you're not even on the continental United States. You're in the United States. I mean, you have all the advantages of being an American, being in the United States, but you've got your own island out in the Pacific. I can see how this could evolve into something that would be an island for the super rich, an island for the super rich. You can't even come on the island unless you got business there, because it's going to be only for the super rich.
There's one in Miami.
Am I becoming too conspiracy theory?
Well, look, I think
here,
that it is worthy of bringing attention to it because of the news stories that I heard. Some of those families that were just distraught and talking and missing. They still don't know where their other family members are, and I shudder to think that some of their family members burned, perished. I heard one man who was in his car and thought that was a safe place for him to be, perished, burned to death in his car with his dog on his lap. I just, we have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I'm trying to. In fact, Joe Biden should be there now. I mean, it should be in the late afternoon.
Yeah, he
on
and his
Maui
wife are
right
both there now. Yes, I heard that report this morning, and as I was coming in, that they're there.
He's going to be under tremendous pressure to really make those people whole, particularly as this country continues to send money overseas to prosecute a war in Europe. I mean, tens of billions of dollars are going to Ukraine, and there's going to be a lot of pressure, I think, on him. But Hawaii is not that many electoral votes there, but it is a Democrat stronghold. I think
more than that. I mean, we're talking about human life,
of course,
human beings and families and their whole lives, and that has to be aside from someone's political aspirations. Although we understand that is,
that's what politicians do, my man.
The fact is that these are people who need help, and our government has to step up to the plate, and our government, does step up to the plate. The other side of this is that, human beings step up to the plate as well. People step up to the plate with their generosity. I have a facility that Team Rubicon rents, and they deal with these kinds of natural disasters all over the world, and so there are a lot of people who are going to chip in to help these people through this situation.
The president says his quote is he will promise that the federal government will help Maui, quote, for as long as it takes, close quote, to recover.
That's going to take a long time.
Well, that's the same thing he said about Ukraine, and he basically he's got some splaining to do on that one, because I think the consensus is now that the Ukrainians are getting their clock cleaned by the Russians, who hundreds of thousands of people dead. Huh?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. Not at this point. Yeah. I mean, I think at this point, I'm reading the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, the mainstream media now has come around to the fact that this isn't working, that the Russians are they're a big country, man, a huge country with a space program and such. I mean, they're fighting the Ukrainians who
Space
basically have
program.
nothing.
They just had, didn't they just have something that went up and crashed or something?
Well,
the
no,
first
in
time?
fact, I'll tell you what
Yeah,
happens is that whenever the United States wants to go to the International Space Station, they catch a ride with the Russians because the United States does not have the facilities to make the trips back and forth. The Russians do. Remember, the Russians were the ones who put the first satellite in the space, and that was Sputnik, 1957. And they have their satellite technology, as I understand it, is the reason that the Ukrainians cannot do anything to fight them, because they can see them on the ground and they coordinate their artillery and missiles and rockets and such and drones using a satellite technology.
Yeah, I don't know that that's so accurate because if that was the case, they would have obliterated the country.
Mark.
So
they have.
No,
they have.
Yeah.
There's estimates that 300,000 to 500,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed. They're drafting children and old men like me to go fight the Russians because the Russians are superior to them militarily.
Women and men from the very beginning said that they were going to suit up and they were going to fight for their country. So that's not anything new.
Well, they said that
right from the beginning.
Doing what I can to read what I can.
Russia is going into prisons and trying and enlisting prisoners to fight because they've lost their military, and thousands have defected from the country because they're saying that they're not going to fight that role.
Yes, you love that MSNBC, don't you?
I listen to all of them.
Well,
I know that's your go-to. I know that's your go-to when you don't want to accept that that's what's happening.
Man, I'm listening to. I read a lot about it, and
you don't even
believe me at this point.
Watch any of the other.
I don't watch MSNBC.
You don't watch any of them.
Well,
you said that.
I don't. I watch some. I go through it. I keep.
Okay.
You know what I do? I keep the financial pages up. That's what I do. Like I'll look at Fox Business, CNBC, that kind of thing, and that'll be up as quiet. Okay. I mean, I don't turn the sound up, but then I'm generally on my phone or my computer looking at I think it's any number of sources around the world. But believe me, I mean, look at the maps, man, and the maps of what's happening over there. I mean, it's a slaughter. It's a slaughter of Ukrainians.
It's not a slaughter.
If it was Slavic people, man.
Well, first of all, you invaded a country that you thought that you were going to.
Well, you got to understand it's a 10-year process, Mark. This happened. This war has been going on for 10 years.
Yeah, they invaded in 2014.
They invaded Crimea in 2014.
Yeah,
but the situation has been underway. The Ukrainians reacted by attacking the eastern part of their own country with a lot of Nazis, to be honest with you, something called the Azov Battalion, who are Nazis. And you got to understand that eastern Ukraine is Russian speaking. These people, they want to be Russians. And that's why the Russians moved in to protect Russian-speaking people.
No, come on,
that's what happened, man.
Come on, Charles.
Ah, man.
Come
Mark,
on.
The longer we come here, man, and we have this conversation.
Yeah, I know, but you change.
I'm not
why
changing.
They do it.
I didn't change.
Yes, you did.
What was I saying before?
Oh my goodness.
What was I saying before? Tell me what I said before.
You're saying that Ukrainians want to be in Russia or part of Russia? Is that what you're saying?
Ukrainians in eastern Ukraine, in this area called the Donbass, and in cities like Kharkiv or Kherson and Odessa.
Where did you read that, Charles?
I read, man. Where? I read in history
give me
books.
The source.
I read in history books.
So that I can go and find it. Give me the source.
I'll give you, man, there's plenty of sources.
But
Odessa is a Russian-speaking city.
You told me you were going to send me the information last week. You didn't send it.
I did.
Please give me the source.
I sent you information, man.
No, you didn't.
Mark.
No, you didn't.
Mark.
Send me
Believe
the
me,
source.
man.
When you send
the
me
Russians-
something, Charles,
Mark,
when you send me
the
something,
Russians,
not that I get
the
that much from you.
Russians have
All I'm
devastated
asking you to do is
Ukraine.
provide
They
me
have
with your
killed
source.
hundreds of thousands
Just provide
of
me with your
Ukrainian
source.
citizens, man.
We know
Really,
that.
man.
Provide me with
They
your
have.
source.
They're soldiers. The Ukrainians are running out of people.
Okay.
They're running out of people to fight them.
And Russia is not.
No, Russia is not.
They're not.
Russia is working
Their military-
24/7
their
making
military-
bombs.
Their
We've
military
run
is
out
not.
of artillery shells
No.
to send the
Let's
Ukrainians.
not change it. Let's not change it.
I'm not changing the subject.
Are you
The
saying?
Russians
Are you
are
saying that
dominating
Russia
these
is not?
people.
Are you saying that Russia are not running out of soldiers? They're not.
No,
Are you
they
saying
are
that?
not running out of soldiers.
So you're saying
they've got
Why are-
soldiers backed up who haven't even crossed the line yet to go into Ukraine because
why
they're
are they?
waiting.
Why are they going into prisons and
They
taking
are
prisoners out?
they are not. I don't know where they're getting their soldiers from. I can't tell you that.
Well,
But maybe they go into prisons. I
there-
don't know. Maybe
there
that's
are
where they
reports.
go.
Why-
but they've
why
got
are they- why
a
are
huge
Russian,
army.
Why are Russian
They've
men
got a huge
defecting
army.
from
There is this guy.
from
Did you look
Russia.
up this guy, Douglas McGregor? He is a former Army tank commander who is
You said you were
famous
gonna
in
send-
military circles.
You said you were going to send that information to me, and you didn't send
I
it.
sent you some information last
No,
week.
you
I
didn't.
did.
You
I
sent
did,
me
man.
a clip 2 days ago. You
Well, I'll
did
send
not
you.
send
I'll
me that
send you some
information.
information.
I'm
man.
not going to
There's
let
no
you off
doubt.
the hook.
Well, okay, don't let me off the hook because
Yeah.
I don't want you to be surprised.
No, I
when
want you to send me
suddenly
the information
You
so I can
understand that
read and then
that
corroborate what you say.
That the Ukrainians either give up, they don't have any
No,
airplanes.
I don't think that-
they
I don't
don't
think-
have any airplanes, and
The
they're trying to run a
Ukrainians are not
ground
giving
war
up.
without air support. It's
The
terrible,
Ukrainians are not
and they're
gonna give
being
up.
slaughtered
Yeah.
on behalf of the United States and NATO. They're
Well,
being slaughtered,
no.
man.
Um,
Mark, I'm just
listen.
telling you, man. I'm telling you. There's a guy named Colonel Douglas McGregor.
you're going to send that information to
but
me.
you can look it up too. You can look it up too.
No, but you
But if you
said
want the
have
truth-
that information.
I mean, he'll tell you the story of what's going on. But you have other military experts saying the same thing. The
Who?
only one saying that
Who?
Putin is losing
What other
or has
military
lost
expert?
is Joe Biden. But Joe
Who?
Biden's
No, no, no.
senile.
Tell me what other military expert.
There
So I can
are
look it
any
up.
number of military experts who are online talking about this
Okay.
constantly, man, about how the Russians are
All right, I'm
using
gonna go
their
home
space
I'm going to go home
capability
tonight and I'm going to
their
look for the military
satellites
experts that
to
are saying,
spot what's happening on the ground to where their soldiers don't even have to encounter Ukrainian troops.
They don't
They
have
just blow them up.
They don't have any soldiers to
Oh,
encounter.
man.
They don't have them.
Oh, man.
They don't have them.
Who tells you these things?
I mean, come on, you got to be kidding me.
the Russians,
Yeah,
they have space.
they're convoys that
space-based
ran out of
stuff.
gas. You mean they're
Oh,
convoys
man,
that
you're
ran out of
listening to
gas?
propaganda.
No. This was not
You're
propaganda.
listening to, yes, this is propaganda.
This was not propaganda.
Oh,
when
man.
their
The
convoys
cemeteries in
actually
Ukraine
ran out
are
of
overflowing.
gas, and
They're
they were not
overflowing,
sending their
man. You read, in fact, the New York Times did a piece just in the last 2 weeks
What was
about the
Putin's-
cemeteries overflowing in
what
Ukraine.
was, I'm sure. What was Putin's henchman that got so irritated with him that he was
Prigozhin. Prigozhin, yes.
Okay, Prigozhin,
Who runs the Wagner Group.
Yeah.
And then now suddenly he's back in good graces and he's in Belarus, which is just north of Ukraine, reforming his army.
Yeah.
This is real stuff.
Well,
We got a
he-
phone
he
call.
was
Maybe
the
if
hitman.
somebody knows something about this war. Hey, good evening.
Good evening. How's it going?
What's up? To whom am I speaking?
You got to turn down your radio or television in the background.
Hold on for a second. Well, my radio ain't on. I know y'all hearing the background. Hold on for a second.
Basically, the thumb.
Hey, Mark, Charles, have you guys heard anything about the $33 million that the USDA gave to the historically black colleges for studying agriculture?
When was that done?
It was done in July.
Oh, this last month.
Yes, sir.
To
It was
study
done July 28th.
to study agriculture and
Yeah, I was. It's because I know a lot of times black folks, they saying that, President Biden is not doing anything for black people. And this right here is something that is not really reported, and it goes up under the radar. But 19 HBCUs are going to receive $33 million.
19, you say? 19
HBCUs, Alabama A&M.
That's not a lot of money, my brother. That's not a lot of money. That's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money.
$33 million to 19 different universities is not a lot of money. I'm not, it's not anything monumental. I can see why it wasn't in the news because it's not a lot of money.
But that's something though,
it's
right?
Something. It's something.
Are we
it's
minimizing
something.
it?
I think
okay, he's doing something.
He's doing, I think that's something. Trump did something with HBCUs too. I don't know. I can't be chapter and verse with you on what he gave him a lot of money.
No.
Tell me, Mark.
Here's what he did. Here's what he
No,
did. Here's
no,
what he
no,
did.
actually,
He gave him money.
No, hold on a second. What he did was he gave it was it was a swap, but the swap was imbalanced. They gave some money said that they were giving some money, but then what they did was they cut the Pell Grant, which means 95% of students that go to HBCUs apply for Pell Grants.
So it wasn't much money.
So it wasn't
much money. Like this isn't much money. $33 million is not a lot of money for 19 different. I mean, it's just over $1 million, maybe 1.5 million for each institution, and I'm sure they can use it. But when you talk about it being under the radar, it's just not a lot of money, particularly when you compare the fact that we've spent, I think we have $113 billion that's going to Ukraine. Believe me, not a lot of money.
Falls up under what? What does that fall up on? Defense spending?
Whatever. That falls under paying off the military-industrial complex to make bombs and to kill people.
Okay,
that's what that is. So the Democrats and the Republicans, we can both agree that both of them are a part of this, industrial military complex. Absolutely.
Neither party
absolutely
can, pump their chest and say that they're doing something. So I think, when it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Trump, who continued with, or Bush, who started the Afghanistan and Iraq war. Yes, Obama, he did add more troops to it. Trump, he may not have added any troops to it, but clearly he did not end any wars. So when it comes to foreign policy and those things like that, I don't think that, neither the Democrats nor the Republicans can pump their chest and say, oh, well, we're doing something. So I think, because I hear you talk a lot about Ukraine and so forth, and it's a moot point. You're not going to win any points on Ukraine. It's just not the Democrats or the Republicans.
Nobody. They call it the uniparty. That's why I think RFK Jr. and Cornel West are very valuable to have in this campaign because they will raise these issues.
Cornel West
talk about
Cornel West has got to get his own house in order.
That's really not the issue, though. I mean,
really, it's not.
Biden, when he put down his budget, proposal. He proposed $23 billion or whatever the amount was. This is what he presented to Congress and said, this is what I need in order to take care of what I have as far as what I want to be spending. The Congress more than doubled what he asked for, and it was approved unanimously through the Senate and the House of Representatives. So it's a moot point. Just stop talking about Ukraine.
Oh, I will. I will continue to talk about that. I will continue to talk about that, man, for as long as I stand. Why? Because, man, you know, the Russians have nuclear weapons.
And
all of what you talking about, HBCU, everything else means nothing if they press a button and send one of those bad boys over here. Hey, man, you have to think about that. You, man, the United States. Wait, listen. The United States is used to fighting people in sandals with machine guns on the back of pickup trucks. These people are different.
You are a journalist.
Exactly. And that's why I'm telling you this. That's why I'm telling you that communist propaganda. What about U.S. propaganda? Is there such a thing as U.S. propaganda? Oh man, no, I'm not gaslighting, man. I'm telling you what you need to know, brother. There is U.S. propaganda, there is Russian propaganda. I will concede that, but I'm telling you the reality on the ground, and the fact that these people have thermonuclear weapons cannot be denied. You don't have fights with people like that. You talk it out. You have a conversation.
I have followed your reporting. I have followed your career. And I appreciated you. But on this one right here, I mean, come on, you're a gaslight.
My brother.
Nowhere near this.
I appreciate your concern. I appreciate your concern. I've heard you. I hear what you're saying. But I'm telling you, man, it's not a major issue when it comes to this election. It's not a major issue when it comes to the election. It could be.
It's not.
What is the major issue, my brother? What is the major issue? It is an issue, but what is the major issue?
How does Ukraine affect you?
Okay, it affects me because $113 billion worth of tax money is being sent to fight this war that the Ukrainians, let me finish, my brother, that the Ukrainians cannot win. And if they did win, if they did push the Russians out of their country, they're going to respond with stuff that, man, with thermonuclear war.
Yeah, that's what
can happen.
Let me just say
you don't play like that. No,
that's
man.
speculation.
Yeah,
of course it's speculation. Of course at this point, but it's valid. It's valid. We've never been in this kind of confrontation before.
Yes, we have.
This
is not going to. First of all, we're not in Charles. We are not in confrontation.
You are spending hundreds of billions of dollars.
We don't have any soldiers. We have no soldiers on the ground.
You don't think so?
We do not.
You don't think so?
We do not.
Well, hey,
we do not.
I could prove that they are. But
of course you can't, because there's not.
They cannot.
There are no soldiers on the ground, Charles.
Okay, man.
Come on.
Okay, man.
Brother. Let me say this. What's your name, by the way? What's your name?
Maurice.
Thanks a lot for the call, man. I really appreciate it. I love to hear from people who disagree with me. I do, but let's go
back before you leave, Maurice. I want to go back because you started out with this HBCU, and we didn't mention this. There was a report that came out after this decision with the Supreme Court rolled over on this affirmative action piece, that the enrollment in HBC colleges, and some had increased astronomically. I forget a few of the universities have to have waiting lists now because their enrollments have increased tremendously. And I think so in reverse, for HBCUs, they've done good. And I believe that this administration is going to be doing more than that. The $33 million, which I think is good, which is for agriculture, and certainly in black farming is having some issues. So I think that is a good thing. But I think that there's going to be more that to be done to support HBCUs. And I love the idea that these universities are getting more students enrolled there. So I think that was a good thing.
Oh, it is a good thing. Absolutely, man. $19 million, nothing to be sneezed at, but not a lot of money. I mean, when you think about what they could be getting.
But why are we comparing the defense spending budget to the HBCU?
Because this is not about, because we spend in this country since
how much does it cost? That million? Okay, 33 million divided over 19 schools. We're talking about 1.2 million per school. And you're saying that's nothing. Now, could it be more? Absolutely. But are we going to minimize the amount we're getting and just disregard it and say, oh, well, he could have done more? I mean, come on, we got to get past this. Oh, it's either all or nothing.
And that's why I brought up the Ukraine situation. If you can pledge $113 billion to Ukraine and $19 million to HBCUs, I see a dichotomy. The military-industrial complex is making out like a bandit on this Ukrainian situation.
But
we have spent in this country since the year 2000.
Wait a second, Charles.
Since the year 2000,
we
have
spent
$13 trillion TRILLION dollars on the military in this country, and it's all going to these Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing. Oh man,
that's not true.
The money. What do you think the defense budget is being spent? Come on, man.
Come on. Do you realize that most of the defense budget goes the spending, the stuff they are required to pay for, it goes towards housing for veterans. A lot of it goes towards housing for veterans,
and that's why they're sleeping on the streets.
Did you know that?
And that's why they're sleeping on the streets. Man, it goes to develop weapons.
Those contracts that you get those lobbyists in Congress, and then they lobby for a certain amount of money, and they spend an excessive, exorbitant, wasteful amount of money. I was in the military for 27 and a half years, and I've seen the waste. So when you start talking about defense budget and it's going to Ukraine and all that, it just doesn't add up.
Well, it does add up because the money, the tanks, the Abrams tanks, the howitzers, all of this stuff.
What about the $2.6 trillion tax breaks that the previous administration gave to the ultra wealthy that we have not paid for?
Not good. Not good. Not good.
Okay. Nobody talks about those.
Well, you can talk about it all you want, man. That's not good. If they're giving billionaires money back, no, that's not good. But I'm telling you, man, they're spending a lot of money in Ukraine on guns, on weapons, and they're losing.
The trillions of dollars that went towards the wealthy and corporations and tax cut is far, I'm talking like exponentially greater and higher than the comparison that you're trying to make with the HBCU. That's more comparable to the defense spending budget, which is like $4.3 trillion. And the tax cut that they gave, which is about $1.7 trillion, then that is a closer comparison and saying, oh, I don't agree with that. Then
my brother, hey man, like I said, thank you for calling, man. I am really okay. Hey man, I get your point. I hear you. All right, Maurice. Your point is made, Maurice. I thank you so much for your call.
Okay, thanks.
Our number is 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. You're listening to The People Show on IntellectualRadio.com. My name is Charles Thomas, along with my good friend Mark Wallace.
Yeah, speaking of guns, we have a gun problem. Do you know that the CDC came out with a report, very disturbing report, that guns, for the second year in a row, guns are the leading cause for the death of children in this country. Guns.
Go ahead.
Are the leading cause.
And I'm gonna respond to that.
For the death of children in this country. This year, there have been 27,000 gun-related deaths in this country. And 56% of those gun-related deaths, of those deaths, are suicides. 56%
okay,
are suicides. 44% were homicides.
Okay. Well, we got a gun problem. We got a gun problem. But I think that what the statistic that you gave, I think people should understand the report that these are children who were killed by the guns, because what that statistic, those who count are counting anyone under the age of 18. We're not like finding 6-7-year-olds finding guns in their homes and shooting themselves.
No, they are.
They're teenagers. A lot of them are teenagers.
No, they break this down.
No, but a lot of
They
the
break
people,
this
that
down.
statistic
Okay.
is driven by a lot of teenagers who are shooting each other, particularly in cities like Chicago. You get a 16, 15-year-old that are shooting each other. They're children. I got it. They're children, but don't believe that they're prepubescent little kids finding guns, shooting each other. These are teenagers, many of whom have sworn allegiance to whatever faction of whatever gang that they want to be involved in. And I'm not defending any of that. They're children. They're children, but they're a lot older. They're not kids finding guns in their daddy's gun in the house. These are kids who are involved in situations.
4,700 suicide children deaths.
Suicide.
4,700.
I mean, I don't,
suicides.
Do you think that if they didn't have the guns?
Guess what? And that number is higher in 2021 post-pandemic. It was high during the pandemic when a lot of children were at home.
So it's higher now.
It's higher now.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
That's terrible,
so
man.
We have a gun problem. We've got a gun problem.
We also have a suicide problem.
Right. We have
a mental health problem and
yes.
a suicide problem that kids
with
are
300
killing themselves. Kids are killing themselves. I mean,
400 million people.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
that is terrible.
It is.
It's a suicide.
So,
it's a gun problem. It's a suicide problem. It's a mental health problem. It's a problem.
And
it's a problem.
This wasn't always. It wasn't always. This happened in the last 30 years because 30 years ago, we didn't have 440 million guns. There were 200 million guns in this country 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. 200 million.
2% of those were assault
And how
weapons.
many are there now?
440 million guns. 25% of those are assault weapons.
45%?
No. 25%
of the guns are assault weapons. Are they the ones that people are shooting themselves with, or are they shooting themselves with handguns? I'm asking. I don't know.
Well,
that seems like a lot of trouble to get an assault weapon to kill yourself.
Well, I'm not saying.
I would assume they're probably the handguns.
Well, you got these semi-automatic weapons like the. Thank God.
Are they shooting themselves with those?
Thank God that the mother didn't kill the 3-year-old over the weekend. The mother in the car.
I didn't hear about that.
My point is there are too many guns available. Period. When you have as many guns
there
as
are
you
quite
have,
a few guns in the United States. There's definitely no doubt about that, man.
Yeah.
They've been here for a long time. They've had guns, man.
Well, we haven't had this problem for a long time.
They used to kill the natives, the people who were here before the Europeans came. The Europeans used a lot of guns to kill the natives, and then they gave the natives guns, and they shot back, and the guns just proliferated. Guns everywhere. It's guns all over the place.
Well,
I don't really know how you can get rid of them.
Well, the first of all, it was just a tragedy that they allowed for this just candy jar, going to the candy store to get a gun. I went to a store to get a drink.
Mm-hmm. What kind of store? Convenience store or something like that?
Well, actually, this store sells everything from convenience to furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very neat. Anything that you need to purchase in this store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, I went up, got the soft drink, went up there, and in the cabinet, they have cigarette lighters. And the cigarette lighters are in the form of an AR-14.
An AR-15.
15 or whatever it is. AR-15.
But the cigarette lighter was, how big was it? My God.
this big.
That big, a cigarette
Yes.
lighter?
They have one this big and one a little bit smaller.
And they were in the shape of an AR-15.
Yes. And I said to him, and of course this is in our communities. And I said to the store owner, I said, you got a lot of product here that you sell. You sell beds, furniture, mattresses, and I see trucks come in here all the time. So you must be doing pretty well with selling that stuff. You got all kind of other stuff. You really need to sell this in our community. Do you really need to encourage this kind of thing in our community? And he says, well, they like them. I said, well, you as a business owner have a certain responsibility not to encourage negative
So
vibes.
you went into full preach mode. Huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was insulted. I wouldn't buy the drink. I left it there on the counter. And I said, I may be back with some more people. I found that to be offensive. I found it to be offensive because I just think that we all have a certain responsibility not to encourage negativity.
Yeah, a few years ago, I know that Father Flager and for a while Reverend Jackson, this was 10, 15 years ago, they would demonstrate outside the gun stores.
No, it wasn't that long ago. Yes.
In Dalton,
yes.
They would go to Chuck's gun store. They're still there, Chuck's?
I don't know what Chuck's gun shop.
Chuck's gun shop in Dalton.
I don't know if it's still there because you don't know too much about it.
You don't hear much about it, but they used to go out there, man, and demonstrate. And I don't know that it really changed anything, but I don't know. I mean, just as a matter of course, I think you'd probably be more effective going to a gun store to demonstrate as opposed to this lighter situation. I get what you're saying about it, but I think that just shows you how the gun culture is such a part of American culture, and to uproot it is, I don't know if it's even possible at this point.
I don't know that this, not at the level that I understand what you're saying about, gun culture and all this. Not at the level that it is. This is not, this is not that. This is an unfeathered unleashing of guns, not because somebody wants to go hunting. When we have, a mother yesterday parks a car and reached for a gun and it went off and shot her 3-year-old daughter.
Where was that? Was that some other city?
I don't remember where it was, but and then of course all the other 50 shootings over the weekend, 50 shootings over the weekends in Chicago and everywhere else. We have all of these shootings because we have a gun problem. We have a gun
problem, Mark, but I think that it goes to this country, what this country is, how it was founded, and to get to change it, man. I mean, I'd love to live in a world where nobody had a deadly weapon, a gun. I'd love to live in a world like that. But the fact of the matter is, in the United States, maybe you just do away with the United States.
No.
Well, what do you do? I don't know how you're going to really
there's something
take
that we can do.
400 million guns back, particularly those who have the guns, who do wrong with the guns, who criminals. They're going to give up their guns. And what are you going to do if you catch one with a gun?
Let's do what they did in Australia.
Well, no. Australia is not United States, man. There's how many people live in Australia?
Wait.
Come on, man.
Wait.
Isn't that not even near? You can't compare Australia to the United States.
You can compare the fact that they had 38 mass shootings in 1 year. 38 mass shooting. I'm sorry. I forget the number, but the last mass shooting that they had, which is 1996, 38 people were killed. Government got involved there, and they had a massive gun buyback of assault weapons. Okay, so it can be done. Just like you start talking about, we're spending these trillions and trillions of dollars.
Love facts. You love facts. I'm going to give you a fact. I'm looking at it. You want to see it? You want to see it? Because you like to see.
So
25 million people in Australia.
So what?
It's 350 million people in the United States.
So
how in the world are you going to collect all 400 million guns from 350 million people?
They didn't collect. They didn't collect all of the guns in Australia.
Well,
I didn't say all of the guns.
Well, what did they do?
They bought all of their assault weapons.
So we're gonna if you can buy all the assault weapons from 350 million people.
350 million people don't have.
But but the vast majority of gun deaths, particularly,
do you know how many people have?
Let me finish, Mark. Particularly those who you talked about in your opening statement for this discussion are children. They ain't using semi-automatic AR-15s to kill themselves. They're using handguns. If in fact that number is true, they're using handguns.
Semi-automatic handguns.
Whatever. Semi-automatic handgun, pop, pop, pop. That's what it does. That's what
there's an easy
it doesn't
trigger.
Go brrr,
it's
it
an
goes
easy
pop,
trigger.
Pop, pop,
but it's
pop.
an easy trigger.
Absolutely.
It's an easy trigger.
Absolutely. I get it. Easier than a revolver. But the fact of the matter is, comparing Australia to the United States, come on.
No, I can compare because they have not had one since then, because what they did was they took those off of the streets, out of the hands of their citizens. Mm-hmm. All right? Mm-hmm. Out of the hands of their citizens. Israel, when you become the age of 18, you have to go into the military in Israel. On the weekends, they would go home and they would have to take their firearms home with them. They had a high rate of suicide. Mm-hmm. So what Israel did was they built armories.
I know the story well.
They have to turn in their guns to the armory when they go home. The suicide rate plummeted precipitously. Plummeted. In Israel, if you want to have a gun, you have to prove that you have to have a gun, meaning you have to live in a territory that is so dangerous that you have to prove that you have need of that gun. Then, if you move out of that area, you have to turn that weapon in, and you cannot transfer your gun from one person to the next.
Automatic with the AR-15, the heavyweight. What about the pistol?
This is any firearm in Israel.
Any pistol.
Any firearm in Israel. House. You have to prove that you have need of it.
Well, Israel's a much smaller country as well, and they don't have the history.
I'm just talking about the principles.
Don't go back to 16.
They did something. They did something about their situation. We are doing nothing but exacerbating it.
They did the Illinois. The assault weapons ban was just upheld in Illinois.
Yeah, but you have to. First of all, there needs to be a federal. There has to be a national uniform policy, because you could have an assault weapons ban here in Illinois. All you do is go over to Indiana.
Absolutely.
All you need in Indiana
absolutely
is a residential address and an ID.
I know this.
Okay.
I know this.
All right.
Very well.
All right. So
yeah, man, go to bass shops, pro bass shops. They got all the guns you ever want, man.
I'm just saying.
You can go anywhere and get a gun, man. That's the United States. That's the American population. I know, man. I'd love to live in a country where nobody had a gun. Nobody had a gun, including the bad guys. Nobody had one. That'd be wonderful. But in this situation, man, what about these people that are using these guns, man? These kids that are rolling, man. They did 20 on Sunday. They did 23 armed robberies. This is the kind where the young people roll up in the car, pop out, some with a rifle, most with handguns, masks, hoodies, put the gun in your face, take your wallet. Yeah, take your wallet and take
common denominator.
take your what is it? Your phone. You think those guys are going to give their guns up?
Guns.
What are you going to do, man?
That's not the point. If
What's
the gun was not available for them to get,
okay,
all right, the gun was not available for them to get.
But the thing is, we got to think about the time it's going to take to get. The
if
guns.
you offered them $47,000,
for the handgun, they would. 47,000.
Yeah,
for the handgun.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'll go buy me some guns to sell, man. 47,000.
Well, you couldn't buy because then the price of those guns would go up.
I can find some guns.
Let me tell you something. That's what they did in Australia.
I can find some.
That's
guns
what they did in Australia
for the
AR-15.
For the AR-15.
Yes,
but
and
not
the AK-47s.
But not for the for the handguns.
No.
Well, the vast majority
of mass shootings,
suicides, as well as murders and aggravated batteries, are happening with handguns.
Well,
in the United States, it's not rifles. I can imagine that you probably had a higher percentage of rifles in Australia because of the nature of the country. It's less urbanized, and you probably.
All I know is they have not had a mass shooting since 1996.
Hey man, that's great. I can G for that. Nobody likes mass shootings with
we can do
automatic
something.
Weapons.
We have the wherewithal to do it.
Well,
if there was a cooperative will to do it
mm-hmm. Why do
by
you think
the people
there is
in
not?
our government, because there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are paying some people.
Mm-hmm. The NRA.
Well, yeah, those who are profiting
mm-hmm.
from it. Those who make them, those who distribute them, they are padding the pockets of those people who could make those decisions.
Sounds like you have not only is there a gun problem, there's a corruption problem.
There is absolutely. There is
around a long time too. Man.
There is. So,
I don't put much
but
hope.
It has not been.
Yeah.
It has not been. We haven't had this problem forever. In the last 30 years, is when this exploded. So we
didn't have a gun problem before.
No.
I thought we did, man. I thought there was a gun problem.
No.
When all those guys in Mississippi and Alabama back in the 20s, man, they had guns and they were using them to kill black folks.
Well, they still, they were
using them to kill black folks, man. They had plenty of guns.
Yeah, well, they're still doing that kind of torturous thing. They're still doing those kind of torturous thing. I just saw a story where 6 rogue cops, a place called Rankin County, Mississippi, January 24, 2023. White woman calls one of her white police friends because there were black family living in a home in Rankin County, Mississippi.
How you spell Rankin, man?
R-A-N-K-E-N, I believe it is. Rankin. Rankin, Mississippi. 6, they named themselves the Goon Squad.
Rankin County, Mississippi.
And these 6 police officers who have all confessed to torturing 2 black women in their home, because the woman said that these black people were in their home and they were making noise in their home. Mm-hmm. And they went in their home, and Rankin County is a city that they found that black people are supposed to be over in Jackson, Mississippi, and not supposed to be over here in Rankin. They went into these 2 black people's home, tortured them, beat them, stuck a gun in one of their mouths and shot it.
Okay, killed the guy?
Broke his jaw.
Okay, Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey, who oversaw a goon squad that tortured black men in Mississippi, is running for re-election unopposed.
Yeah.
Man. And I see you got pickets here of activists.
The 6 men some of them are facing, they all pled guilty and facing life in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Tortured them.
Cops?
The cops.
Mm-hmm. They're facing life in prison.
They not only did they do that, but they have attached them to some other tortures that have been going back.
Man,
for
I
years.
tell you, that sounds a lot like torturing 2 black men. That sounds a lot like the what's the guy? The
John
Burge situation.
Burge. John
That sounds like the Burge situation, which we had right here, man. And,
but these guys openly call themselves the Goon Squad.
Well, the Burge, I don't know what Burge called himself, but he probably did a lot more damage than the Goon Squad.
Man, listen,
I mean, Burge, man.
Burge.
Man.
He had, who knows how widespread his soldiers were.
Who's that, Burge?
John Burge.
Oh no, man! They were all over. In fact, there are people today still locked up who are saying that they were tortured by Burge. I mean, so we that's amazing that you have something like this happening in Mississippi, and really earlier this year they say one of the men was tortured, was allegedly tortured in January of this year.
Two of them were
tortured.
This happened in January 24th.
So man, it happens. There's no doubt about that, man. It happens. I'm I'm reading through this story.
I just,
so he's running again. Yeah. Running unopposed. I wonder why the black folks don't have somebody run against him.
In Rankin County?
It must be some black people living in Rankin County, if in fact
I think it's very, very few.
It's like Sundown County.
Rankin County, well, it is in the reports. Rankin County is the town for whites, and they don't want blacks over there.
So Rankin
and they're
County,
saying that Jackson, Mississippi,
it's near Jackson.
Is near Jackson, and Jackson is where black people are supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to be over here in Rankin County.
Mm.
Yeah. But, I think, man, there's so much anxiety and aggression in people today.
Oh, man,
I just want us to really take a step back and take a deep breath. And I mean, there's so much aggression, man.
Oh, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Listen.
Let me tell you what happened to me, man. Sunday. I'm driving. I'm at Canal and Roosevelt. And I got to make a left turn to go west on Roosevelt. So I'm waiting, for the light to change. The arrow comes up. These two young women, they're probably late teens, early 20s at most. They walk right in front of me. I'm going to slam the brakes. Whoa. Because I had the arrow clearly. And they were talking and I put my hands up like exasperation. What are you doing? And so
that could be dangerous.
Listen, what are you doing? And the sister, one of them turned. She's got a heavy set sister, right? She turned and she looked at me and she said, "What you gonna do? Run me down?" And I said, and I shouldn't have. I said, "I will if you don't get your fat butt out the way."
That's not what you said.
That's what I said. Man, she had a drink in her hand.
Uh-huh.
She threw the drink up against my windshield. It splashed everywhere. Then she squared up in front of my car. What you gonna do? This is a young woman. And I looked at her and I said, nothing. I ain't gonna do nothing. I'll be damned if I'm gonna be out here boxing with some 19-year-old woman who will probably kick my ass.
Man,
because
there's so much aggression. I'm telling you, Charles. Man. I saw last week. This was a young man. Well, he wasn't that young, but he was drinking. He had been drinking. Okay. And he grazed her car and kept going. Of course, we learned this after the fact, but we're standing there and we see this blue car comes and cuts this car off. And I see this woman jump out. So I'm getting ready to take for cover because I'm not sure if they're getting ready to start blazing.
Mm-hmm.
But she confronted him. And we later said, man, she really didn't know where she was. and she had a California license plate. I'm not sure if it was a rental car or if she was visiting it from California or what. I'm just saying she did not hesitate to cut him off and say, "Hey, what the? You hit my car."
But like that?
Yes. I mean,
Was he trying to roll away?
no, he actually got out. He got out.
But she was very,
you know,
yeah, I know, man.
He rolled away in the beginning, but she ran up and cut him off. So he didn't have any choice but to get out.
Yeah, we have a lot of
dangerous.
It is very dangerous out there, and people are like
too much aggression.
Very aggression, and the tripwire is right there.
Yes,
and you can trip it with the slightest thing, and it's not cordial, and we are not cordial to each other in many situations, and I don't know how we restore that. And I think a lot
one
of that,
by one we have to do it.
And I think a lot and if you combine what you were saying about guns and the proliferation of guns with that kind of attitude, I mean, if that sister had something else in her hand, I mean, she could have done damage. The one that I ran into Sunday, she was on DEFCON. What is it? 1, 2. Is the big one? It's 1. DEFCON 2. She walking around DEFCON 2. DEFCON 1 means you're ready to blaze away.
Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing with guns is what it does is it heightens the already, aggression or egos or whatever. When somebody has a weapon on it.
I feel you, brother. Look, I feel you, but I'm telling you, when y'all get it worked out and y'all can get all the guns from the bad guys as well as the good guys and all those in between, you can get them all. Holla at your boy. Holla at your boy. I'll gladly give mine up if I feel that ain't nobody else got one. Holla at your boy. Just tell me when it happens. I'm there for you, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that you haven't had need of using it.
I am, man. You are grateful.
I'm grateful that you haven't had need
God
of using it
every day that I would not have to do something like that.
Yeah,
man. Oh man.
Yeah. The statistics are you're 3 times more. And there was a statistics that came out about that 70, if as a black child, you're 60% more likely to be killed by homicide. 98% more likely to die by suicide of a gun. Those are the statistics. So it's the availability of guns that is the problem.
Man, like I said, get rid of the guns. You get rid of them. Bad guys, good guys.
Man, I'm praying.
And when y'all get them reparations checks, I want to get mine too. So holler at me then when the checks come. But in the meantime, I'm going to take care of business.
Yeah, well, the reparations, reparations is not a new thing.
I get that, man. But do you think you're going to get
reparations? Is not. Listen,
you think you're going to get some?
They've done reparations. Reparations was done before. There have been instances of reparations done, so it ain't like it's a new thing.
Right, I get that, but right? you think we're gonna get some as black folks?
We certainly should keep trying.
Well, keep trying.
We should,
like I said, and if you get them, holler, because I definitely gonna be in line to get my check, but I'm not counting on it.
Okay.
In fact, I'm operating my life, and I hope my children and grandchildren are operating their lives as though you're not going to get them.
You're not
work on that. Go to school, study hard, get training. Don't depend on the reparations. But if you get them, holler at your boy.
Well, I don't think that anybody's depending on them. I don't think anybody's depending on them, but they certainly should be determined to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
They've done it. Look, Germany paid $89 billion in reparations to Israel, this country. We paid, I forget how many billions it was to the Japanese in reparations. So reparations has been done.
Has been done, man.
It has been done.
Here is we got a big problem in terms of trying to figure out who gets them and how are they paid, man.
Well, we got to figure out who wait a minute. Why do we need to figure out who gets them?
Easy, man.
Why do we have to figure out who gets them?
You got to figure
black
that
folks.
out. Huh?
Why do we have to figure? What do you mean you have to figure out?
Who's black folks?
Me.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
Earl.
Okay.
His kids, his wife.
Mm-hmm. Everybody get a check?
Yeah.
What about Barack? Does Barack get
Well,
reparations?
look.
Does Barack get reparations?
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
Well, his mama was white.
So his daddy was black.
But that was black, but he was an African. He was black in Kenya.
So,
I mean, he wasn't.
So
he should get them too.
So yeah.
Man, y'all gonna be paying, man. You're gonna be paying, man. Should Patrick Mahomes get him? He's got the quarterback for the Chiefs.
Who is that?
He's a quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, the most valuable player in the NFL or whatever.
Is he black?
Well, his mother's white, his father's black.
Oh well.
Does he qualify for half share or full share? How are we gonna work all this out, man?
You split those hairs. I'm not splitting those hairs.
No, but somebody's got to split them before we can
just
get
give us
enabling legislation to get our check.
Just give us our check.
We're gonna have to figure all this stuff out.
Well, they didn't figure that out when they paid the reparations for all those other groups. They didn't figure it out. They didn't have to go in there and check some box. They said, okay, we're going to give X number of dollars in reparations, and they gave X number of dollars. They didn't say you got to come in and we got to do a DNA test on you.
Well, the thing is, one of the most sordid vestiges of chattel slavery was the one-drop theory. The theory that allowed a white slave master to enslave his own children. So this is part of the United States culture, the one drop theory. You got one drop of black blood, you're black. And what it does.
Was that for political reasons? That was for political reasons.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, I think it was for economic reasons because they wanted to enslave these people that after they raped black women, they wanted to enslave the children who were born from those rapes. So we have this one drop theory still in place so that a person who is half white and half black is called black. But I'm gonna tell you, they probably, if there was any serious thought to reparations, they'd have to do something about that.
Okay, well, you can be on that committee. All right,
man,
you can be on that committee.
Like I said, I'm not going to be on. I'm not expecting any reparations, man. But I'm telling you, if you get a check, if they passing out checks, I'm trusting that you will let me know that checks are being written. And Charles,
I'm not going to have to let you know. You're going to know about it.
I will know.
You're going to already know about it.
Well, if the checks are coming, man, I'm right there. How much you think it should be?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know that they can actually enumerate how much we should actually get.
Well, they're going to come up with some kind of number.
Yeah,
Gavin Newsom. I mean, I think he was a big reparations guy, the governor of California. I think Joe wants it studied. Joe Biden, he wants it studied.
Wait, we don't need any more studies. There's been so many studies.
Okay.
We don't need any more studies.
Joe gonna get a study, and Gavin Newsom just commissioned a study. In fact, they came back with some numbers even in California. It's laughable, man.
Yeah,
it's laughable what they're doing to keep the Negroes in line, to keep them voting Democratic.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's what it is, man. That's why they're talking about it. They ain't gonna give you any money. If they won't give you some money, they're giving it to you 50, 100 years ago. They don't give you any money. They don't have it now. They're broke. We got a $33 trillion deficit. Where are they going to come up with the money, man?
The same places they keep coming up with money to do anything else they want to do.
To spend in Ukraine?
Yeah. Look, let me tell you something.
Maurice,
all of the money
in Ukraine.
All of the money that is being generated in this vast country. And this vast country is tied back to the enslaved.
Okay, man. Speaking
All
of
right.
money, I'm gonna shift gears here.
All right.
You know that tomorrow, maybe it's already started since they're so ahead of us in South Africa. The Brazilians, the Russians, the Indians, the Chinese, and the South Africans are hosting the so-called BRICS Summit.
Good for them.
Well, at which time
Good for them.
they are going to talk about coming up with a new currency backed by gold in order to conduct trade, which would have a huge effect on the U.S. dollar, which is
Good
currently
luck with that.
the reserve. You're familiar with it,
Yeah.
but it starts tomorrow morning.
Good.
And they have like 40 some countries that want to join this BRICS alliance because, you know, again, there's another lie about the whole Ukraine situation. Joe's so-called sanctions against the Russians, they don't seem to be working because you've got the Indians and the Chinese who represent 40% of the world's population doing business in South Africa with the Russians. Huh? I mean, like, what's up? I thought that we had this great noble cause over there when we got most of the world's population is basically lined up with the Russians.
I'm not so sure about that.
Oh, I'm sure about
I'm
that.
not so sure about that. But,
I'm sure about that.
But okay.
Oh man,
Okay.
I'm just telling you, man.
Are you going? Are you going to
I'm
the
not
meeting?
going. No, I'm just watching, man. I read
okay.
about it. In fact, you're
All
not
right.
going to get it on MSNBC, but if you
You're going to get it on Fox?
and you Google,
You're going to get it on Fox?
You Google, you don't hear it on Fox? Hell no.
Oh,
Fox,
okay.
man, is part of the
Okay.
part of the
Well,
the scam, man.
well, which
Fox is
medium?
part of the scam.
What medium are we going to get it on?
All you got to do is Google on your little magic phone, BRICS, and they'll give you updates on the conference. It happens tomorrow.
What is that?
In BRICS, the BRICS Summit. Now, Putin, interestingly, is not going to attend, although he is sending his Secretary of State or whatever, because there is this warrant out for Putin's arrest.
Where?
In the World Court. The World Court, which of course is dominated.
The same people that you say that are joining Putin, but he's not going to go because they have an arrest warrant out for him.
He doesn't want to put the South Africans on blast, because if they don't, then they conceivably could have some repercussions. But the fact of the matter is, look it up, folks. BRICS Summit, BRICS Summit in South Africa. The African nations are going to be heavily attended.
And I will tell you
at
this,
the deal.
It ain't going anywhere.
Well, okay, if you say that, that's fine. It might not go anywhere.
It's not.
I'm just telling you what's going on in the world, which is much larger than what happens in the United States. And Joe and his people, they don't tell you anything about this kind of stuff, man.
I wonder what the GDP is amongst all of those who are supposed to be in this meeting together is.
I think it's probably, I read it's in the Chinese have a GDP of $17 trillion. The Russians are they're less than 5. They're small, but it doesn't approach the European number yet, but if all these countries come together, then it could be a competitive situation with the dollar as the reserve currency. The Saudi Arabians want to join. They want to join BRICS.
Not going to happen.
That's going to be a big question there. The Saudi Arabians want to join, as well as the Argentinians. And
it's going to fall apart.
I would study it. I would pay attention to what's going on in the world.
You pay attention.
What's going on in the world? You pay attention. You don't.
But I'm sure to you that it's not going anywhere.
Well, if you know that, man, because you're a geopolitical expert.
No, I'm not.
Okay, I'm not either.
I'm not.
Because I don't know where it's going.
But
I'm just saying that they're having the summit. It's comparable to the so-called G7. Have you heard of that before? We have Japan, France, Great Britain, United States.
You say it's comparable to that?
It's comparable to the G7.
To a meeting.
That's what it is. These countries consider themselves comparable to the G7.
Okay.
You know, the world has changed, man. The world changes a lot. It's changed in the last 100 years. There used to be something called the British Empire, and it ended after World War II. It is no more. Gone. Who knows what's going to happen in the world? But you have to pay attention. The world is a big place. It's bigger than the United States. Earl,
Yeah, we're only 4%
how
of the
we
world's
doing, man?
population.
You got some tips, man. You got some reading to do, some homework.
And you're going to send me some. You got some information to send me,
man. Since you can't get them on your own, I'll send them
to
to you.
You have to send
But there
me
are some things that we talked about tonight that I don't think get talked about very much.
No.
And I'd like to thank our caller, Maurice. He had some enlightened comments. I appreciated him, appreciated what he had to say. But we've had a good time here on The People Show.
On IntellectualRadio.com. And once again, we wish all the best to our super producer, Earl Winfrey. Happy birthday to him.
Happy
We
birthday,
appreciate
Earl.
you, man. Thanks. Good night, y'all. See y'all next week.